From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew Meehan, alongside my partner, as always, Luigi, the Professor, Rosa Bianca. What's going on today, Lou?
Matt, how are you, pal? Today we've got something special on the menu. We've had a lot of people that we respect and we like and we look up to on this podcast. But for the first time, I can honestly say we have a friend on the podcast. Now, you and I have this love affair with people that master their craft. And we don't care what the mastery is, right? It could be transmissions, it could be shoe shines, but as long as you master your craft and you do it well, we hold you in really high regard. And today we've got someone that has mastered the craft of children's gymnastics in the US of A. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Bryon Hough.
Well, that was an introduction that's going to be hard to live up to, Luigi, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Piece of cake for you, pal.
So I was actually thrilled to be invited on this show because you two have been a very key role in the success that I have had. Talked me off a ledge, talked me over the ledge, helped me figure things out, take the late night texts and calls when I just need to vent, and helped me get through a very significant time period in our industry the last couple of years with not only COVID, but then all the national attention to our industry with the Larry Nassar scandal and child abuse. And, you go from a point of, do you really want to be in this industry to, I just want to conquer the industry, and you guys helped me get there.
Hey, Brian, why don't you tell everybody what the industry is and what you...
Yeah, that's a good point. The industry, it's technically the children's activities market. So, for the low-hanging fruit for me, it's gymnastics. I grew up in that industry. I started in that industry. But it includes swim schools, dance studios, karate studios. I even have some daycare and preschools, educational preschools that I'm involved in. We've got some proof of concepts we're working on for future expansions. But basically anything that has to do with kids and their activities is what our industry is.
Awesome. Hey, Brian, let's take a step back for a second. Let's go back to the beginning, right? So how did you become the entrepreneur that you are today?
Yeah, I mean, that's a story. I don't know if even many of my family and friends know the entire story. So I was a competitive gymnast through high school, was put in the program when I was young because, a little hyperactive kid. Mom needed to put me somewhere. And she said, he's, destroying everything in the house. Let's go teach him to flip. So I kind of fell into it by accident. I was a senior in high school. I was a borderline college gymnast. I could have faked my way through a little bit, maybe been on the roster, but not really a contributor. And a guy that I worked for offered me a full-time coaching job because his number two had left and opened his own place. So I'm 18 years old. I signed an employment contract for a salary of a whopping $18,500 a year. But when you're 18 and you've been living in a situation where your family had been homeless and in government subsidized housing, $18,500 was like I won the freaking lottery. So fast forward 2 years and this guy gets a divorce and has to sell his gym. I end up buying this gym with a loan from my grandmother. And within about 2 years, I had to file bankruptcy on that gym because I was 19 years old. Didn't understand that when you withheld payroll taxes, you actually got to pay them immediately after payroll. You don't just get a bill at the end of the year. So I made some really dumb mistakes back then, and then I went to work for another company that for 18 years ran a great business, 19 years actually, employed me, paid me well, loved the journey, but I wanted something else. I wanted more. I wanted back into owning it. I wanted back into running things my own way. Not that they ran it bad. I just wanted to do things different. And I wanted to reap the benefits of all my work. Running their large facilities were great, but I was capped at what I was going to be able to do from a structure of my life, a financial structure, and for me, I was at the point where it was quality of lifetime too. And I was done working 12 and 14-hour days for someone else. If I'm going to work 12 to 14-hour days, it's going to be for me, whether I make more money or less money, at least it's going to be for me. So 2011, and ironically, this date is in the news right now, January 6th, 2011 was the day this journey began for me. I was terminated via email from the old place because I said I wouldn't work for the two children. There are two children that were going to buy it. And I just sat on my couch and was depressed. And you have relationships with athletes and families. I was on the verge of tears. And this first gym owner that contacted me, she had turned the gym over to her family or to her son. And he had her on the verge of bankruptcy. And she was successful. She was making money. She was down living in Florida and had turned the reins over, and he damn near bankrupted her. So she called me and wanted to hire me, of course, didn't want to sell it, nor did I have the means to buy it at that point. But push came to shove. She got so close to bankruptcy, her banker, which is still my banker today, my number one banker, found a way to get that SBA note transferred over to me and found a way for me to be able to start my journey. So that was between January and May of 2011 is how it all began.
Bryon, when was the last time you made a flip?
Let's see, I'm 52 now. I did one on my 40th, and I did one on my 45th. Then I've had 2 shoulder surgeries and have a knee that needs one, so now we stop.
Hey, Bryon, all kidding aside, I think part of the message here is the importance of physical activity, group fitness, and discipline to young children. How difficult is that to translate that message and convey that message to basically, for you, the parents of America?
It's a tough message. You know, it's when you say the word gymnastics, they don't always go with fitness. If you say swimming, well, I don't have a lake or a pool. I don't need to learn how to swim. And we have marketing strategies that we use that post the benefits of gymnastics with the coordination, the gross and fine motor skill development. We take 18-month-olds and they can't do anything. But, you know, if you bring your 18-month-old into class, we're working some gross and fine motor skill development with you. We're working a little bit of flexibility, you know, by just moving their range of motion, things like that, you know, and then as they move up, and if you took a kid that at 2 years old, you teach them to walk on a balance beam, that coordination is going to help you, whether you're working your foot skills as a quarterback in the NFL, whether you're trying to work your foot skills playing basketball and having the good core strength and stability to stay on your feet. Both my kids were soccer players and they played in college, and they were started in gymnastics, and they did it until they couldn't do it anymore because they just weren't good enough. But that coordination helped my daughter be a great goalie and my son be a great center back.
I think children's activities in general, I'm a big proponent of it because my kids are involved in as many activities as they possibly can. But for myself personally, you know, Taekwondo is a big part of my life, right? Mm-hmm. It kept me out of a lot of trouble, right? But it also taught me certain skills that I still put into my life today, whether it's how to be confident, perseverance, or moving forward. Whatever activity it is, it gives a child a reason and a place to go to that they can actually continue to grow as a human. And it teaches them determination, right? And gives them something to strive for. So I think it's extremely important. You know, I don't think it's just a sport, but I think it's everything that it instills in the child from day one to them continuing on in these programs.
No, I 100% believe that. And there's no specific exact pattern for a parent to put their kid in an activity, but they need to be in activities. They need to be doing anything that provides them structure and discipline, not to mention the physical parts, the strength, the flexibility, the endurance, the coordination, motor skill development. All of that is important. And I think if you look at children's activities as a whole, as an industry, that also transfers into the preschool and daycare settings where, you know, we want to teach kids to learn their academics, but giving them some physical breaks during the day and let them go run around and burn off some energy to get them back to refocus. And the physical part of raising children is something that is super important to us.
Now, Bryon, let's not pigeonhole you with the Pee-wees and the preschool. You've got some great success stories in young children athletes going pro and also having Olympic experiences. Tell us a little bit about the typical growth pattern of a child from, you know, under 4 all the way to the pro level.
So, you know, the biggest goal that we have is obviously getting the kid to go as far as they are capable to go. So not every kid that walks in the door is going to get a college scholarship. What we try to do is we try to advance them through sets of curriculum. And we have had success. I mean, we, out of just the one organization, my main first one, you know, 140 some kids get full Division I scholarships out of there. We've sent some kids onto the national team. We've sent some kids on to competitive Division III schools. We have a lot of kids that even graduate as seniors and don't go on to college. But the fact that they stay in it, knowing they're not going to be a college athlete, shows the value that the sport has for them. we have not been fortunate enough in our business or in our industry, shouldn't say industry, our locations to actually have an Olympic athlete, but we've got a lot of kids close to that level.
Bryon, let me ask you one thing. Wear the hat of the business owner, entrepreneur again. The interesting thing about your businesses is you're exposed to different regions of the country. Tell us a little bit about the challenges and the differences in doing business with, let's say, maybe the coastal states versus the Midwest versus maybe the Southeast.
Yeah, and that really, there's several challenges. So let's go to a non-COVID world, a pre-COVID world. The challenges were, if you're in the Midwest, so I have locations in Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, and Michigan. We don't get the weather you get in Florida year round. We get that 3 to 4 months out of the year. So we have a challenge of keeping enrollment up for the months of June, July, and August, or maybe even starting as early as May, as baseball, softball, all the outdoor sports begin, soccer. People want to be outside, or they want to go to their lake homes in the winter or in the summer when they can't in the winter. We have those challenges. So it's how you market your classes, how you set up the session lengths to make sure that they overlap into June or they start in August for the school year to try to pick up a couple extra months of revenue. When you're down in, say, Florida, down where I am right now, if you come down here, the challenge is which activity to get them. So then the marketing switches to, why would I want to do gymnastics when I can go do soccer and I get to play outside all year? Why would I be stuck inside a gym? Why would I want to do this sport when I've got every option in the world available to me 12 months out of the year? And then you fast forward that into a COVID situation, and then all hell broke loose. Just different states and different rules. I had a group, my Michigan location couldn't do anything basically from January, even January of 2021, not even until I think June of 2021, we were really fully open there, where my Iowa location, COVID barely existed. We were shut down for a few weeks and then back up and running. So just how to manage different governments and different laws, and the beliefs and values of the families changed dramatically. If you're in my home state of Minnesota, you look at that Minneapolis area, it's a little different demographic than what I'm going to find in Des Moines, Iowa, or what I'm going to find in suburban Chicago, or what I'm going to find in Lansing, Michigan. There's just a whole lot of variables, and your staff, same thing, just how they view how you run your business changes basically on how they're located.
Now, Bryon, one of the challenges of every business owner is kind of managing the good times, but also preparing for the bad times. In your industry, really took it on the chin during the pandemic, but I think you really got a good 1-2 punch with all the bad press that your industry got. Tell us a little bit about how and what a business owner should do in overcorrecting. How do you recreate faith, not just in the business, but also in the industry?
That was something we really wrestled with when the first round hit us with the Larry Nassar scandal, which, gymnastics took the brunt of it, but that's a youth sports problem. I sit on soccer boards, and there's all kinds of abuse issues, and all of the overcorrecting that we did was basically putting the policies that we already had in place out in front before it hit the media, announcing to our customers and our staff, this is what's coming. This is what's in the news. You're going to read about this. These are the areas that we've already taken measures in prior to this situation happening to prevent any of these things ever happening to your kids. We have to market all the other benefits of being in a sport. We talk about communication. We talk about watch your kids. If there's no viewing available in wherever you sign your kid up, then you don't go. If there's not a wide open lobby or a video feed for you to watch, then you shouldn't be in that facility. We try to manage it that way. The situation that we're in with that has calmed down from the standpoint of the feds put in the U.S. Center for Safe Sport Law, which any sport that has a governing body for the Olympics, so gymnastics does, anybody that's a member of that governing body has to follow certain guidelines with background checks and policies and safe sport reporting. And all the staff have to go through training. Even your office staff and janitors have to go through the same training on what to look for and what is appropriate and inappropriate. And now that is transferred to every other sport. Soccer coaches have to take it. So it's been really good for the kids to see what the coaches really can be like. in the industry, and for families to see that instead of being viewed as, oh God, I saw gymnastics coaches are bad on TV. And that everything that you saw on TV for the most part was true. That was a bad situation. It was at the very peak top level of our sport, where a lot of people made bad decisions for medals instead of making the decisions that were best for kids. They get too focused on, I want that gold. I'm going to overlook what's going on. No excuse for it. Shouldn't have happened, but that is how it got there. We've tried to take at our locations, and what we're trying to preach across the industry is, let's put an environment in place that is fun, that is safe. Let's not make it all about, does that kid learn that cartwheel perfect or that backflip perfect? Let's make it about what's their experience in the time that they're in our building. Are they there for fun? Are they there and just don't want to leave because they enjoy the people they're with, because mom and dad are happy in the lobby and seeing results, and they love the relationships they're building with our staff? It's all about building that experience. If you create that positive experience, we can overcome the negative press.
Well said, Bryon. Hey, Bryon, as you know, our audience are small to medium-sized business owners in growth mode. And I know this is topical for us, but tell us and tell our audience how important are standard operating procedures, and give us a couple of pearls of wisdom in that category.
Well, I will tell you, and as you two very well know, I took a rapid expansion over the last couple of years, primarily when COVID hit. I just went all in and figured, if we're going to go out, we're going to go out swinging. And the negatives that come with that, as we tried to expand, I noticed, we'd get the acquisition, we'd expand, we'd grow, and then I'd move on to the next thing. And I just assumed everything was going to keep running the way it should. But as you grow and there's more challenges with more employees and more locations, we didn't have the procedures in place. Even with 5 different states that you're trying to buy insurance for, one policy may lapse because you forget to renew it or send in the application or do things like that. So we put a pause on the expansion for just a little bit here, and we're now trying to regroup and fix all of our standard operating procedures, update all of our manuals, and make them more user-friendly, more up-to-date for all the staff. And the other thing that I would really advise people to do is, if you're going to expand, you got to go out and get help. You got to ask for it. You've got to find the right people that can help you get over the hump, and you got to open up the checkbook to hire some more people. You have to find people to help. I've hired 2 very valuable people in the last 6 months, have taken a weight off of me. They've helped me delegate. They've helped me understand the plan that we need to be in place. And as my newly hired COO told me a couple of weeks ago, he goes, you just keep your eye on the prize. Tell me what the big vision is and how you want to get there and what you want it to look like, and I'll make it happen. And, and that's kind of what I've had to do, is step back and turn some things over to other people that I trust to make it happen the way I want it to happen. But you got to have procedures and policies. If you don't have that in place, you're going to sink fast.
Now, Bryon, tell me, you are a type A personality. You like to see things through. How difficult was it for you to release the reins to someone else?
Oh, extremely hard. So just one of my duties when I started in this industry, when I was 18, I was just coaching. And I've always had a passion for coaching the kids. And I enjoy it. And I have a great group of kids that I currently work with. And I just hired my replacement 2 months ago, to be the new head coach at the main location that I was at. And so when I am available to coach, I text them and say, okay, I'm in town Tuesday night. I'll come in. Do you guys want me? And I go in and I'm at their mercy on what I'm doing for the night. And then I have to watch. And if the coach, whether they're doing it right, it's just not me doing it. And I panic about that a little bit. So yes, it's hard to let go, but she's doing a phenomenal job. She's great. She's everything I wanted.
Good, Matt. So all you, buddy.
Oh, no, listen, Bryon, to say you took lemons and made lemonade is an understatement. I think you went out and you built the whole lemon farm or trees moving forward, man. I'm so proud of you, what you've been able to do. But it was dark for a little while, right? Mm-hmm. What was one thing that you kept telling yourself to get you through those points in time? Because you're an action taker, right? And I think the fact that you didn't sit still, from my opinion, from the outside looking in, is what kept you going. What's one thing that you kept telling yourself to keep going?
For me, it was, I didn't want to let the people down. I didn't want to let my staff down. I didn't want to let the families down. I didn't want to let my family down. You panic when you think, I got no money coming in. I'm going to burn through everything I have. How am I going to pay this employee who's got 3 kids? She's a single mom. How am I going to pay her? How am I going to look these kids in the eyes if I got to shut my doors because I'm not prepared and I'm not doing this. And like you said, I was up all hours of the night. I was up early. I was doing everything I could to find resources, whether it was physical resources like capital, whether it was advisors like you two. And we actually met through me trying to do capital initially. And then it turned into, oh God, these guys can help me figure out stuff and sort stuff out, to just sitting down and taking a break some nights and opening a bottle of wine and sitting back and thinking, what's the worst thing that can happen? And then realizing we're not there yet. We got plenty of time. Take a breath. This will all work out. But it was very scary for me to in 1 hour be thinking, how am I going to stay open? How am I going to meet this obligation of debt service and payroll, to how do I control my anxiety about wanting to grow and keep expanding? And it was a constant struggle. But the best thing I did was every week I would take an hour or two and just sit, and I would, whether it was watch TV or a movie, have a glass of wine, whether it was in the morning, just coffee out on the porch by myself, or just take the boat out and drop anchor and sit, is I just tried to remember the worst things that can happen. And the worst things that were going to happen weren't happening. And so we would just get up in the morning and we would start again. And I had an amazing staff that were all in. You know, they saw how hard I was working, so they worked just as hard. And I think that's key business advice for anybody. If you own the company and you're in a situation where you're asking your staff to do something, they need to know that you've done it or can do it or are willing to do it if needed. That doesn't mean I work the same hours and schedule they do. I am the boss, but they also know that when shit happens, Bryon will be there and he'll take care of it. And I think that was part of it, is that, you know, I tried to be with my staff all the time. I tried to check in with the athletes when they were on lockdown at home and couldn't come in. And I don't know if there's a secret sauce to that, Matt. And I think it was just constantly every day revisiting where I was at and talking to people and trying to figure out which resource was going to help me that day.
And you did it, and we got through it. We're moving forward, right, Bryon?
We did. And yeah, I mean, I just met with the CPAs yesterday, and pre-COVID, with the 2 locations I had, we were about a $4 to $4.5 million a year business. Now, even in 2021, with COVID and businesses recovering from it, we're going to do 7 to 8 million this year in 2021, with projection for 10 to 12 next year. And that was something that I jumped into hoping would happen, but wasn't sure that was going to happen.
And you know what? You're just getting warmed up.
That's what I like to hear. That's right.
You know, so listen, you started the gym, you failed, right?
Mm-hmm.
You pick yourself back up by your bootstraps. You went to go work with somebody else for a while. You started another one. That started the snowball effect. COVID comes, smacks you in the face, right? You get back up, you pick yourself up. Not only do you get back up, but you start swinging back and you're taking over right now. What's the next phase look like for Bryon Hough? What's 2.0?
3.0 probably. All right. So the next phase, and this is great you asked this, because I was just asked this by my managers yesterday. After we take the next several months to streamline, organize, reorganize our next expansion, we have plans. We have a model that we've created that we want to start at one of our cities, where there's one city I have a location where I don't own the commercial real estate, and our lease is going to be up in a year. And it's a little inflated lease. And I'm like, okay, that building is packed. They're using every inch of space. We can't generate another $1 per square foot there without just raising prices every week. We are going to build this new concept that even has some programming we don't have now. So the next phase is for me to be able to get my finances in a row, my books in a row, and the revenue coming in these current locations, so that I can go to the bank and say, I've got this $10 to $15 million project I want to get done. And they jump at funding it, because I also believe this project that we have can pick up and drop into several other markets around the country. And this could easily take us from an $8 to $10 million a year business to a $50 to $100 million business in the next 5 to 7 years.
It's exciting, Bryon. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting, but scarier than shit.
Yeah, but we've been there all over again. It's just copy and paste, right? You know, it's bootstrap, and you know, you said there's no secret sauce, but a little bit of the secret sauce is just keep the wheel spinning, right?
Right. As entrepreneurs, we all know that we're not wired to get up and do the same thing every day. We're not wired to be W-2 employees. We're not wired to just punch in a clock at 9, leave at 5, and go home. If I'm not thinking about what to do next, I don't know if I could function. I think my brain would wilt away. I think I would shrivel up and just drink myself into a coma with all the wine in my basement. I think what I really need to do is be focused on always wanting more. And I had a friend ask me, when are you going to retire? And I said, I hope I never retire. Like, I don't ever want to be the guy just sitting in the rocker watching, Family Feud all night, but there's working, and then there's working smartly. And then there's when you've really achieved it, you're working without work, and that's where my goal is to learn how to work without working and be able to run whatever it is from my island, from my boat, from wherever, and still think about what's next. But I went from being a slave to the time clock to then being able to do things on my own, which was great, but that caused even more work and more stress in my life when I first started, because you're growing, to where I'm at now, where I'm feeling we're almost to the part now where I'm a true CEO, where I am overseeing things and not in the weeds on every little topic. And I think that was the key, is to not care about every little topic. If all of the solutions to that problem are acceptable to me, let my staff and my people figure that out, and I'm moving on to the next thing. And that's what keeps me happy. It's what can I do next? I just had a call. I think I texted you guys this. I just had a call from a guy in New York that wants to sell. We just had one down here in Orlando, would have been near you, Matt, that I passed on. But there's stuff that is out there that I'm thinking, when I get to this next stage, when I'm done with what I'm in, how do we plug those pieces into the new puzzle? And that's what I want to see. I don't want to see locked with what I have now. I want to see how we can make it different and bigger and expand. And even if during those expansions there's stress and headaches that go along with it, it's kind of what makes me happy. Not the serious stress like we had during COVID, but to just constantly be thinking, what can be next? What can I do better? And I never think we're doing it good enough. It always can be better.
I think that's called growing pains, Bryon.
You're right. It is growing pains.
It's a good pain. Bryon, tell us a little bit about. Well, we just literally just see the tip of the iceberg. Tell us a little bit about your experiences with the Olympic Committee, as well as your consultancy gigs.
So I spent several years, 20 years or so, on a committee called the Junior Olympic Committee for USA Gymnastics. We just create a lot of rules. We create a lot of structure for the gymnastics side of the sport. I retired from that in 2017 when I bought my first out-of-state location. I'm currently the vice president of the United States Gymnastics Club Owners Association, where we really help club owners with back-end business things versus, how to teach a cartwheel. And we've also transferred that into other industries besides gymnastics. We are the management company and consulting company was formed as a solution to COVID. It was a way for me to help consolidate all four of the companies under one payroll, one workers' comp, one medical benefits program for my employees. And it allowed me to save some overhead costs, accounting, and all of that. Well, what that turned into is during COVID and during this whole bad media situation, it gave me an opportunity to help others. So I just started advertising free phone calls and free advice and put it in random Facebook groups. And then one thing led to another. And now I'm doing paid consulting. I'm doing helping gym owners close their gym sales and represent them as a broker. I now have two more that are closing, one December 1st and one December 31st, one in LA and one in Kansas City. And I've got another one I just closed out in Delaware. And these are things that not only provide me extra income, but it provides exposure for my main company. So some of these people that are calling wanting to sell, like this one in Orlando that I just looked at and had somebody go check for me, I looked at it, do I want it first before I help them sell it? And it gives me an opportunity to get right of first refusal on these things. But in all reality, I am trying to help some of these people, because some just, and I'm sure you see this in all the industries you work, there are people that literally just know how to run their business and do their job, and they don't know anything about the back end business side of it. They don't know, I think I heard Matt on one of these Liquid Lunch podcasts I was listening to say that people will call them for financing sometimes and they can't even get them a P&L. And that's kind of what I'm dealing with some of these people that, what's my business worth? And I say, well, tell me about how much money you bring in, how many students do you have? Well, they can't even answer that, and I think it's a situation where, as unorganized as I felt my systems and processes were for my size company, there's people that are so far behind the curve that I can help them, which then helps our entire industry grow. And that's going to help me too. Every time the children's activity industry grows as a whole, that's more exposure for us. That's better for all my brands.
I love that so much. You're so right. Most people get into business because they're a technician, right? They're very good at what they do. So in your case, somebody knows how to do a backflip. So they teach other people how to do backflips, but they don't realize the rest of it that comes with actually owning the business. You can't just teach backflips all day, because who's going to answer the phones? Who's going to do the finances? Who's going to do the maintenance work on the projects, right?
Right.
Who is going to go out there, build relationships, and where's your marketing department come from? And it gets very overwhelming for business owners when they're first starting out, because I don't think they put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And, I think that's a good thing sometimes, because I think if you look at that and you say all these pieces, it's going to be overwhelming. You're going to have less people that start their own businesses, right? So it's kind of like learning by just, jumping right in and swimming the English Channel rather than just dipping your toe in the water. But Bri, I'm really super excited for you to be on here. You've done so much. I'm looking to see you grow more, and I'm sure the audience and everybody listening right now would want to reach it. Can you tell everybody where they can find you on social media, or the best way to get in touch with you?
The couple of ways to get in touch: we have a website, camincorporated.com, camincorporated.com. We also are on LinkedIn, Children's Activities Management, or myself, Bryon Hough, Hough, on LinkedIn as well. Those all work.
Awesome. And Bri, one question before I let you go. I ask everybody on the show. I know you listen to it all the time. So what does success look like to Mr. Bryon Hough?
That was the one question all day in my head. I'm thinking, how am I going to answer that question when Matt asked me that question? So success to me is doing what I want the way I want to do it. And I think that's the simplest answer, is I'm doing what I love, and I love the way I'm doing it right now. And I hope that evolves to maybe the way I love to do it changes over time, but I want to have that flexibility to always do what I want the way I want to do it.
Accompanied with a robust Barolo.
Right, exactly. Yes. A little Barolo, even a little Amarone. Oh, I'll do the French, I'll do the Bordeaux, I'll do the Cab. Name it, Luigi. I'll take them all for you.
So, Bryon, you are, I don't know if you remember, because I'm going way back to the beginning of the pandemic, but you are indebted to us. There was a slight gentleman's agreement that when the pandemic started, we sat down, the three of us, and we said, we're either going to be filthy rich or we're going to be bankrupt.
Right.
And I think you owe us $1. You've got our wiring instructions, my friend.
Right. I think I owe you $1, and I think I owe you some dinner with some wine, which will get set up eventually too. But I'm indebted to you guys for, and just, I'm going to give you guys a quick little plug before we sign off. The reason I found these guys is I got a random marketing email that, said from Matthew Meehan. It was some term loan, something, whatever. I don't remember what it was. And I filled out the application for it. And these guys replied and said, let's do a Zoom call first. And so we sat and we did this call. And what I loved about how they did things is they didn't pressure me to take any kind of money, whether it was a MCA or a term loan or anything, until they learned if I could afford it, till they learned if it was right for the business. They took time to learn it. And then when I did start using them regularly, it's not all talk. I'm just telling you, if you're not signed up to use these guys, I would do it. They've talked me off a ledge. They get to know you and your business and don't just try to upsell you.
I really appreciate that, Bryon. And for all you listeners, yeah, that's right. We actually do have real jobs. We don't just get on here and talk all the time. Hey, but Bryon, we want to be respectful of your time. We really appreciate you being here. We look forward to doing big things with you in the future. And man, I am just, over the last 12 months that we got to know each other, I'm thoroughly impressed. Thank you, Bryon.
Thank you. And thanks for all your help. And, I'm available for you guys anytime. And my new podcast is going to start in 2022. And at some point, you guys are going to be guests on there for me.
Can't wait.
All right.
All right, guys. That's another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to the show, and make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.